today's webinar is all about the Airbnb summer release, which came out, I think, in May. So it's been out for a little bit of time now. There's been lots of discourse and discussion around it, and a few other things have kind of come out over the time. So what we're really going to be discussing today is what was in that release, the guest-facing things, the host-facing things, and what it really means for your guest experience. Because so much of the last year, I think, with the big Airbnb release, a lot of it was host facing, really kind of operational stuff. And this year, it's really guest facing. So there's so much more that's changing on the interface and in the app for the guest, but there are actually quite kind of slightly hidden repercussions of that for the folks using Airbnb for their business. So we're going to dive into that today. So welcome along. Very happy to have you here. And this is being recorded, so it will be sent to everyone later on, either today or tomorrow. So don't worry, don't need to take screenshots, but feel free to take notes, of course. Alrighty. So a little bit about TouchStay, very, very briefly. So TouchStay, if you're not a customer, you don't know already, we provide digital guidebooks for short-term rentals. So if you are welcoming hosts to your properties, a digital guidebook is the best way, in my humble opinion, to share your information with guests, communicate with them, and it's really this tool for ensuring a really fantastic guest experience. Our guides are used all over the world. We have customers in more than 30 odd countries, and we have guests all over the shop using guides, and more than 50,000 TouchStay guides are in use around the world, which is really lovely. So we've gone global. And millions of guests are using TouchStay. So we may seem like a small little business from the UK, but we really are all over the place. So I won't dive into that too much now. We'll get to a bit of the stuff around the guidebooks later, but let's now dive into the release. So the main thing that I think I took away really from the release is, and this started last year with some of the changes that were made then, but it's really the Airbnb want to sell the guest the whole trip. They don't just want to be the booking and then it's done. Airbnb want to capture more from the guest. So that's more of the guest's attention, more of the guest communication, and of course, more revenue from the guest. They've introduced experiences. They've gone even harder on that this year. And there's just more and more that they're putting into the platform so that they can capture more of the guest wallet. And that's great for Airbnb, I suppose, if that's their business model. But there are a lot of repercussions for you and for the guests, and different ways that we can be smart while still remaining compliant with Airbnb policy to make sure that you don't lose the guest and let them get swept away by the Airbnb machine, but you still get to show off your hospitality and show guests why they should book again with you and keep coming back year after year and leave hopefully a very good 5-star review. So what kind of there was a lot that came in the release, a lot of different features and lots of little things. It wasn't like one big thing this year. It was lots of different little things. So that I've broken it into 4 different buckets. So number 1, services. So they're calling this services, which is kind of an extension of the experiences that they really pushed last year. So for example, in the US, you'll be able to do grocery delivery with Instacart. That's just the US right now. There's airport pickups, luggage storage, car rental. So there's all these additional services around the trip. So when like Airbnb really are trying to not just get that booking, but really offer things to the guest throughout that guest journey, right through to check-in, whilst they're at the property, which has traditionally been your domain, and beyond. So that's the big thing with services. Then experiences. Experiences have been on the platform for many years, but they really relaunched them last year. And now they're doubling down on the categories that are the ones that guests book the most, which is landmarks, so tours, that kind of thing, food experiences, and events. And guests are already booking these. They're giving them very high ratings, and these are available on the platform, and the guest just books them directly. And these can be experiences outside of the property. They can also be experiences within your property. And I've talked about this a lot on previous webinars, so feel free to go to our YouTube to learn a bit more about those. But it's just showing that Airbnb are really pushing more upselling and offering experiences to guests. Then this is something very new, which is kind of taken from the booking.com playbook, which is hotels are now available on the platform, boutique hotels. So they launched in 20 cities, and this is in the US, they have New York, And then in Europe, they've got London, Paris, Madrid, Rome, amongst others, but those are kind of the most popular ones or most well-known, I suppose. So when guests are searching for a stay on Airbnb, they will see hotels, boutique hotels alongside, there's not going to be any Hilton hotel in there, who knows for now. But guests will see these boutique hotels alongside your listings. And interestingly, they're getting a 15% credit. When they book a hotel, they'll get a credit, like Airbnb money, to spend on a homestay. And so Airbnb referring to your places as a homestay versus these hotels. So it's an interesting way of getting guests to book a hotel on the platform, but then to get credit to come back and book a stay. It's a very interesting flywheel that they're trying to create there. And then the last piece, which is probably not surprising to anyone because it's all anyone ever seems to talk about at the moment, AI is everywhere. So there's been a lot of AI woven through the platform. Brian Chesky, the founder of Airbnb, talked a lot about the importance of AI and the guest experience when they're on the platform and just removing a lot of the friction and operational things that guests encounter when booking a trip. So I'll go into these in a lot more detail. But it's really changing the way guests interact with the Airbnb platform and therefore how they interact with your listings. And there are some things here that are super important for you to take note of and changes that you might need to make to your listings. But fear not, we'll run through it all. So what's live and where? There are some things that are relevant just to the US and just to, yeah, so let me clear it up. So globally, the things that are generally available is the airport pickups, there's luggage storage, there's the boutique hotels that I mentioned, car rentals. Those are either here now or coming later this summer. It just kind of says later this summer, but it's July, so maybe they're already here. All of the AI features that we'll dive into a little bit and the experiences. And then things that are only for now available in the US is the grocery delivery. It's host stocking the kitchen before check-in. And car rentals. Oh no, car rentals is both. Ignore that. That's my typo. So only a few things that are just specific for the US, but anything that launches first in the US indicates that it may come later for other markets. So just good to keep that in mind. So Airbnb really does seem to want to own the whole trip. It's no longer just about booking the stay. It's really about getting more of the share of wallet from the guest and really owning that guest experience. Essentially, Airbnb wants to own the guest experience. So last year it was all about experiences and services. This year it's all about the other ambient stuff that surrounds the trip. And I think the reason they've done this, for example, an airport transfer, if you have a really terrible airport transfer and then you arrive at your stay, a guest is going to kind of psychologically connect that awful start to the trip with the property and it may end up in the review. So in theory, it kind of makes sense that Airbnb wants to manage more of the quality of the very start of the trip. And ensure that guests are generally having more of a positive connection with Airbnb as a platform because a lot of guests will connect, they won't necessarily think I booked with this property, they'll think I booked an Airbnb. So that's potentially why they're doing it. And of course, to make more revenue from each of the bookings. And Airbnb really want to capture the guest from the very beginning when they're daydreaming about their trip. Where should I go? What are the endless possibilities? Right from that moment all the way through to their flight home. So even that airport transfer back once they've left, once they've checked out. And Airbnb is very much positioning themselves as the owner of this experience. So it's not just giving guests a better better stay. They really want to offer guests a better trip. And if I was a host, I would be thinking, well, that's a bit concerning because it's my properties they're coming to stay at, not yours, Airbnb. So let's dig into some of these specific points and see what you can do to still hold on to that guest experience and hold on to the relationship with the guest. Don't worry, there's lots that you can do. So a couple of host updates that I wanted to focus on here because I think they're really interesting. Number one is that Airbnb are going to start, and if they haven't already, start sharing more data with the hosts, with the property managers, whoever owns those listings. So seasonal information, hyperlocal booking data, offer suggestions for last minute pricing. So this is really stepping on the toes of some of the revenue management tools. But what I found quite interesting about this is, of course, Airbnb is a massive platform and they have an enormous amount of data over many, many years. And of course, they have bookings for the future as well. So they are able, with their algorithms and this huge amount of data, to predict pricing, and they're able to make recommendations on, the different types of bookings you should be accepting, or that kind of thing. So it's interesting. You'll log into Airbnb, you'll be able to see this data and these recommendations, and that might seem like a really positive step and a bit of transparency from Airbnb. And it is. It's certainly useful and a nice indicator. But one thing to really keep in mind is that this, of course, is only Airbnb data. And Airbnb is not the market. I know we do feel that it is, and they are a huge piece of that market. But from a market share perspective, I can't remember now off the top of my head the number that they have of the market, or that all the OTAs have, but there's still a significant chunk of the market that exists outside of Airbnb when it comes to bookings. There's Booking.com, there's VRBO, and of course there's direct bookings. And so if you're being suggested certain pricing by Airbnb, I think all of these metrics and data points and suggestions they're offering can come with a pinch of salt, because the data set is not complete. It's only relevant to Airbnb. And they'll be, of course, wanting to encourage certain behaviors for the people, for the properties that are listed on their site. Of course, they're a business, that makes perfect sense. So whilst it may be interesting and can give you some nice indicators, I don't think it replaces any revenue management tools. I don't think it replaces any data or benchmarking tools. But I think it's very interesting that Airbnb are moving into kind of offering these type of view and this information to hosts. So definitely take a look at it, see what it tells you, but I would always take it with a little pinch of salt and the understanding that this is all going to be just a smidge biased. And then one thing that's also very interesting and that AI is now being used for is, there are 1 billion reviews on Airbnb, and properties will have thousands, maybe even hundreds of reviews, and guests can't read through all of these. So what's being pulled together now by the algorithm is a review highlight. So there'll be like a very short paragraph that basically summarizes all of the reviews that your property has. So if everything's really positive, you'll get, it was great, it was sunny, it was very friendly, we had a wonderful time, air conditioning worked great, wonderful Wi-Fi. But if there are certain things in your property that you have repeat issues with, maybe there's a broken step, for example, on the porch on the way in and someone's tripped over, or maybe the air conditioning is broken, for example. If that gets repeated enough times, that's going to be pulled into your review highlight, and that's going to put people off. So reviews have always been important, and now they're more important than ever, because those keywords, those things that are repeated by guests, are going to be pulled in and summarized and presented to your potential guests. So it's really important to keep an eye on those, especially if the same thing keeps coming up. Please fix that air conditioning or improve, whatever's broken and needs fixing. Now's the time. Lovely. And then what about all the AI? What is all of this discussion about AI being woven through the platform, new AI search, new AI guest experience? It's not all that complicated, but let's break it down and have a look. So the main thing that Airbnb have noted upon is the change in how guests are searching for properties. And this isn't just an Airbnb problem. Not problem, or an Airbnb thing. A couple of weeks ago, I did a webinar with Neely Khan, and Neely is an expert in visibility on the LLMs, the AI chatbots, Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, all of them, talking about how your property can be visible in these. And what has changed from being visible on Google, for example, it's no longer keyword based. So I think for years, everyone has been building their Airbnb listings as well as their websites around keywords, so that your SEO optimized, your search engine optimization is all done. But now guests are searching differently, because guests are typing long sentences or even voice note or speaking into the LLMs, the bots, the Claude and everyone. So they're not saying 2-bedroom apartment September. They're not using filters. They're not going by these very specific tick box criteria. The example here is they're searching for a quiet flat in Lisbon, walking distance to a good coffee shop with a desk for working, good Wi-Fi, late September. That's more of a wish and a desire than just tick boxes. So there are fewer filters that guests can use, and instead there's more of this conversational searching, and Airbnb are now surfacing results based on this. So the way you're being searched for and made visible on the platform has changed. So the algorithm is reading your description, it's looking at photos, it's looking at reviews, and that's how you get found. I know that has always been the case, and filters as well have been how you've been discovered. But it's really now based a lot on the descriptive way you're talking about the property. There's more conversational, more chatty, and those descriptions are really important. It's not just the amenity boxes you've ticked that will be resulting in how you get found. So if something is missing from your listing, it doesn't exist. It won't be pulled through by the algorithm, and you will not be seen by a guest. So think about how a guest might search for your listings, how they might be searching for your properties, and then look at your listings and do a bit of an audit. What's missing? Have I optimized this for the new way guests are searching? Because whether we like it or not, and not everyone, of course, is searching this way, not everybody is using AI to search, but it is happening, and it's just going to become more and more of a pattern, I imagine, over time. So getting ready for this now and responding to the new algorithm and the AI that it's using can only be beneficial to ensure that you stay nice and visible in the search rankings on Airbnb. So that's number one. And now guests will be able to ask questions to Airbnb before they ask you. So there is an AI chatbot that guests can now ask their questions to. So if they have a question about a property, for example, or can I bring my pet, whatever, they'll be able to ask that directly to the listing, which is, the little AI chatbot there to answer questions. So this can be helpful, especially if it's very operational questions, things that are in the listing that the guest has just missed or not read. Perfect. This is the kind of thing that AI is useful for. But there's no problem with this. It's answering the kind of those first line of defense questions. And the AI assistant that guests will now have, it knows their booking, it can sort problems out for them, and it's available, I think, in 11 languages. So it's solving a lot of the translation problems as well. But again, this is great, and it means that you will probably have to answer fewer questions around that booking stage or post-booking. But it also means that if information is missing from your listing, it doesn't exist, and the bot cannot answer it. So again, if it's not in your listing, the AI can't surface it, and the guest will either get frustrated, they won't get their answer, they'll book elsewhere, or they'll have to make additional contact to get the information that they need. So the questions they're asking might not always be make or break, but it may be. So just ensuring all of the information that's relevant to a guest when they're booking, when they've booked, when they're at that early stage with you. Anything you can do to avoid cancellations and make sure guests are really stuck in and they're committed to your booking can't be a bad thing to optimize for. Reviews. So I mentioned this, but I'll come on it again because I think it is really important. So all of your reviews that you've ever had and your lovely star rating, be that 3 stars or 4.9, that's all getting boiled down to one sentence that summarizes everything, like where it is, the amenities that are available, how suitable it is for a specific audience, if you can bring pets or not, that kind of thing. So if you do have repeated complaints or things that pop up time and again, those will become part of your description, which I don't think anyone wants. So if that porch light or the step is broken, or your towels are a bit old and you need some fluffier towels, now really is the time to deal with those issues. And it's a really useful exercise. Look at your last however many reviews, or look at the summary that is now there on your listings. Put yourself in the shoes of the guests, see what it says, that summary. And if you don't think it is reflecting what actually is the reality of your business, then the steps that you need to take to change that. Because guests are very lazy. We're terrible now. We don't want to read long things. We don't want to go hunting through reviews. I mean, in the past, I've certainly been a person. I'm very sensitive to noise when I stay somewhere, especially for work. I want to sleep. Got to get up early. I want to sleep. So I'll do a control F and for the word noise. Or in booking.com, for example, you can search for the word noise, or and you can see things that have been repeated. So putting yourself in the shoes of the guest and the things they look for when they come to your properties. Make sure you check those things out and fix any issues now, because it's only going to make sure that you get that nice review, that nice sentence review at the top of your listing. Another thing Airbnb are now doing with AI is they are making recommendations to guests. So once guests have made a booking, and especially if they're doing a trip with multiple people and they can do a shared itinerary, there's a map that is being created with points of interest or local recommendations. So it'll show restaurants, experiences, things to do near your listing, near the property. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But just like Google recommendations and Google Places over the years, it's super generic and it's typically tourist hotspots. It's just an algorithm that picks these places up. It's not an individual person who's been there and has had a nice experience. It's just places with the highest reviews, whatever is pulled in from Google, all of these other big sources of data. So it's very generic. And again, there's nothing wrong with the guests being like, oh, there's that restaurant. Oh, that's a famous place I've heard of. In Barcelona, it's like, oh, Las Ramblas. Oh, I would like to go there. Or, oh, I'll go down to this paella restaurant by the sea. That's fine. But a lot of guests want to go beyond these generic recommendations and actually find something that is unique and special and a bit off off the beaten path. Especially in a town like Barcelona, like it's busy. And if you come here fully as a tourist and you don't have any recommendations from a local person, you're going to have a very different experience. And that's what people want. They want these special experiences that make them feel like they've been able to do something no one else has. So whilst Airbnb is now offering these recommendations, I think it's a good thing because it is going to be generic. It's not going to be memorable and it's not going to stick necessarily in the mind of a lot of guests. So this is a good thing, I promise. So Airbnb might be owning what happens pre-check-in, and they're trying to get more and more of this whole trip experience. But the rest of the game is still yours to win. It is your homes that guests are stepping their feet into, and Airbnb do not live there. They're not there within these homes being able to connect with the guest beyond their platform. So the rest is really up for grabs. And I'm going to run into a few of these topics now and share with you some very practical ways that you can win. Take a big sip of water. So Airbnb does not own your guest experience. As much as they are trying to, and in certain ways they do, there is still so much available to you to stand out, show off your hospitality, make those connections with guests so that they remember you, they remember the stay, and they want to book again, and they book direct with you, ideally. So your business and your brand can still tell a story. There's nothing that says you can't have anything in your property to tell guests about your business, about you, and really make that personal connection with them. Guests are craving real experiences and a chance to disconnect. It's becoming a luxury item now to be able to go on holiday, put down the phone, have a bit of a digital detox, disconnect from the world outside, and connect with the people that you've gone away with. And with AI becoming something that kind of embedding itself into all of our lives, when I go on holiday, my phone is like locked in a box. I don't want to speak to anyone. It's the same at the weekends. I just want to be left in peace with the people that I'm hanging out with. And more, this is becoming something that people across the board are wanting to do because we're so overwhelmed with technology. There's so much noise. So actually, the more you can do to provide a beautiful experience within your property that doesn't require technology is a good thing. And you know your local area and you know what makes it special in a way that Airbnb's generic AI recommendations can't. It just can't. Google were never able to do this with the mass of data that Google have. And therefore, Airbnb, I can't imagine a way that they're going to be able to do it either. Because what's special and what's unique doesn't necessarily make it onto a Google place. It doesn't even often make it into Reddit and all of these places that these algorithms pull from. These are things that people just share with each other and chat about, and that can't really be replicated at scale. So what you know is unique about your local area is still a strength and something that is important to communicate to your guests. And guests like having convenience, we all do. And AI is very good at offering convenience and removing friction at different parts of the guest experience. And that's fine. AI is not the enemy here. Things that make your lives easier operationally, reduce questions, and ensure that everything is nice and smooth for the guest and for you as the host. That's good. But still, the core of the reason people are coming on holiday is because they want to just disconnect and have a nice time with their family. And Airbnb, I don't believe, can offer that. That's where you guys come in. And this is also where TouchStay's guidebooks can come in to help you. So in the age of the AI guest experience, a lot of people now are thinking, well, do I really need a guidebook? That everything's already been answered. The guest already has everything they need. When actually they don't. The main thing guests want when they go on a holiday, and we know this from the guest surveys that we've done at Touch Day and the all of the research that we've done and the hosts we speak to, the guests we speak to, guests want to have a lovely experience. They want to have a great time and they want to feel confident about their trip, confident that they'll be able to check in on time and check in easily with no lost door codes or lost information. They want to be able to get in touch with the host if they need to. They want to be able to self-serve and ask questions and not have to get in touch with someone sometimes. And they want to be able to discover things about the place they're staying, whether that's the property or it's the recommendations that the host is offering to them. And one of the really excellent strengths that I think is now even more important for Touch Day is that once the guest has got it on their phone, they don't have to download anything. It's not an app. They don't have to go through this faffy process to get it on their phone or to open it up. You just send them a link. And once that link is saved to their phone, they save it as a little widget. So it looks like an app and behaves like an app, but it's what we call a PWA, progressive web app. So it's browser based. So once it's on the phone, it's there. So even when the guest has no Wi-Fi, if they've wanted to disconnect, they can just go grab their phone. It can be in airplane mode and they can still see all of the information that you've shared with them. Some features are not available, of course, because they do require an internet connection, but the core of the information that you've shared with the guests, the Wi-Fi code, the door access code, all that jazz, all of your nice little recommendations and storytelling, that's all still available. So there's a ton of stuff that is still so important and so necessary to share with guests and communicate to them you can do with your Touch Day guidebook. So what makes your property special are the things that AI can never do. And that's what I want you to remember. Think of of course, AI can make things easy from an operational perspective, but how you make a guest feel, don't think AI is able to own that. Certainly not in the iterations that we have right now. And in my opinion, I'm super skeptical. I think more and more and more guests are going to want to speak to their host. They're going to want to have that connection and they're going to have a memorable experience because of the connection they make with people and a property and the place that they're in. So guests are still going to want to connect with you, not with a platform. And, you know, everyone now is saying AI sounds the same. It's all from the same sources. It's all very generic. It's very boring. I certainly find I switch off when I'm reading an email that I know is written by AI, or if someone's emailed me and I know it's written by AI, I'm like, I'm not interested. It's boring. It's just simply boring. And it doesn't, for me, it doesn't spark my creativity. It doesn't spark my interest. And this is the same for a lot of people. We know when something's off and it's, you know, we're getting kind of some information that hasn't been written by a human, and it does turn people off, and it is boring, and we don't go on holiday to be bored. And the experience guests have during their stay are still within your control because they're within your four walls, or however many walls your properties may have. What happens during the stay has far more impact on how the guest is going to feel than that they happen to have booked it on Airbnb. Maybe they had a great experience with Airbnb up until they checked in, and that's great. That's not a negative. That's good because that positive association will also be linked to your properties, but it's not the whole shebang. How you communicate with guests, how you surprise them and delight them is always going to be more important and more impactful than a chatbot that answers a question. Guests will always remember how you made them feel. And I say this all the time in all of my webinars because I truly, deeply believe that it is a fact. People go on holiday because they want to feel something and have an experience. It's just a fact. And no matter what magical AI things come up to take work off our plates and make things faster and more optimized and efficient, a holiday is still going to be a holiday for the majority of people. So what are some things that you can do? Well, your guidebook, your Touch Day guidebook, is now your secret weapon. We know that for the last couple of years, it's been harder and harder to develop a relationship with guests when they've booked on one of the platforms, Airbnb, specifically in this context. You no longer get the guest email, and now the guest's phone number is even disappearing. In a lot of cases, it's gone, and now you just get these the placeholder number. With Touch Day guidebooks, you can collect the guest contact information and still remain compliant with Airbnb's guest information collection policies, which is fantastic. We have this really nifty feature When a guest first accesses the guidebook, they can add their name, last name, email address, and phone number. It's up to you if you collect this. You absolutely don't have to. But even if you just want to grab the guest's email or the phone number, not both, you can put this on the front of your guide. So for the guests to get access, they give you this information. And guests, all of us, we're so well trained in giving over our email address in order to get access to something, get something back. It's very normal. It's not really seen as friction, and it's just, no one really thinks twice. So this is a really nifty feature that you can turn on or turn off. It's entirely up to you. But this is a great way of being able to gather that guest contact information. And once you've gathered it, we now have a wonderful CRM system within TouchStay. So all of your guest contact information, all of their their stay details at your property, it's all gathered to there in the guest record. So if you don't have a PMS, a property management software, or you just don't have a place where you're keeping all of your guest contact information all together, this is super handy, and it's all included with your subscription, I think. Don't quote me on that. We also have one of my favorite features, and it has always been, is the map feature. So each TouchStay guidebook has a map. And if you have multiple properties in multiple places, you have multiple maps, but you're able to add all of your recommendations on these maps. So you drop in a little Google place, you can add your own photo, add your own description, add a little story, whatever you like. It's really quick. It takes literally 15, 20 seconds to do each one. And then it's this personalized map that the guests have. And I don't want a map from Google. I want a map that's, someone has lovingly put together the places that they know where they've gone with their families for years, or the little hidden coffee shop that they know has the best espresso. You're able to do this. So it's none of the generic recommendations that Airbnb are offering. It's personal, it's special, and that's what guests will really respond to. And you're also able to offer upsells and experiences through the guide. So experiences, whether they're outside the property or within the property, but they're in your control. So from, the very functional things like early check-in, additional cleaning if guests are there for a long time and it's a big group, late checkout, that kind of thing, or to the really fun stuff like have a private chef, someone to come and do a yoga class, all that stuff. If you're not offering experiences to guests yet, or you're doing it very manually, it's a really nice way to dabble with it and give it a try. It's all included within the guidebook, and you're able to take payment for all of these upsells directly from the guidebook. We don't take a cut; it's all yours. No commissions here. So even if you've got lots of experiences and upsells that you already offer, if you want to centralize it and put it all within the guide, the guest is already in the guide. They're already exploring, they're already discovering and interacting with your business through the guide. It makes perfect sense to have the upsells in there as well, because it's just one place for the guest to explore, not, oh, here's a link I sent you on email, and oh, I WhatsApped this to you. It's all there within your guide. And we're almost there, don't worry. I realize I've been talking for ages. And a lot of people say, well, can I just use AI and make a landing page that I can just send a link to my guests? Is that sufficient? And you absolutely can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. Just like there's nothing wrong with having a PDF or a printout that you share with guests and you have in the property. But certainly when it comes to using AI to build things, when AI gets things wrong, the guest does not blame the AI, they blame you. And that impacts your reviews, that's the guest experience. And we just don't want unhappy guests because an AI has made something up, put in the wrong information, had a hallucination, as they call it. So yeah, when AI gets things wrong, it's you the guest will be mad at, not the AI. And if it's not compliant with Airbnb and the policies of the other OTAs, you're going to get yourself into a pickle. We don't want to break any of the policies of these platforms. We want everyone to get on. We want to be compliant. And there are a lot of very specific things around capturing guest information and what you can and can't communicate to guests at different times that we need to be mindful of to remain compliant. These are not necessarily baked in, some of these quick apps or quick landing pages that people are popping together in an afternoon. And there's nothing wrong with this. And I think it's really interesting to use these tools, give these things a try and see what it spits out, and kind of put yourself in the shoes of your guest and think, oh, do I like this? Does it look good? Does it show off my business in the way I want it to be shown off? Is it professional? Is it polished? So it's a good thing to play around with. I'm not against experimentation and giving it a go. Of course, I've done this. I have a business, and I'm always using these different things. Oh, would this work? Is this nice? So it's certainly worth dabbling and trying. Absolutely, especially if you've never had anything before. You've never even had a PDF. You kind of just relied on the information on your website, for example. But something really important to keep in mind is that it doesn't scale. So if you have more than a handful of properties, you need to be really careful about the information you're sharing, when you're sharing it, and the clarity of the communication. It's very hard to do that once you've gone beyond one or two properties if you've just got something that Claude has spat out. And when it breaks, that's your 5-star review already gone down the can. Trust has always been important, of course, but trust is now a currency that you really cannot risk frittering away. So, and breaking trust with a guest because you used a tool that wasn't quite there, wasn't quite right. For me, it's just not worth the risk. There's a reason why people haven't just ditched all of their subscriptions to every tech product they use. There are reasons: security, compliance, usability. There are so many people who are like, oh, you can do away with your entire tech stack. You don't even need a PMS. You don't need this. We're not there yet. Maybe we will be in the future, but I'm personally, no, staying away, danger. Let's keep things nice and safe. So, whoop. So I've talked about a lot of things, probably lots to think about, lots to consider. And I know I can see lots of questions have been asked, and I will get to those very quickly, don't worry. So what are things you can do today? What are some practical steps you can take away with you? Because I always like to give you a little bit of homework. So things you can do today. Go and look at your Airbnb listings, and not just on Airbnb, but on your website as well, please, because direct bookings are the ones that we all hopefully, I imagine, like to be going after. But read your listings like you're the AI. Pretend you're the AI and what the AI will be trawling for and looking for. Get descriptive, get creative. Focus on all of the amenities that your property has that you've never mentioned before, because oh, they'll discover it when they look at the pictures. They will not. You have to be very, very descriptive with words. AI, the large language models, love text. Everything Claude is spitting out, AI agents, they're all just text files. It's all text. So more than ever, whilst images are beautiful and they really capture the eye of the guest, what captures the eye of the algorithm is your writing. And so that's why it's super important to be very descriptive and maybe go beyond what you think was required in the past to really remain visible. Look at your review insights for that complaint that keeps coming up. And the towels aren't very fluffy. Buy some new towels. Whatever keeps coming up and might start pulling you down and putting guests off, let's replace that. And then go through your local recommendations. If you haven't added all those unique, special places that your guests really love, that they comment on, that they even write about in reviews, add those to your touch day guide or however you're sharing recommendations with guests. AI cannot match that. It's a little secret superpower that you have that AI just cannot do. And get your guide into your property. It may be that you've not been able to communicate with your guests before they arrive. Everything's been handled through Airbnb. You don't have their email address. So you haven't even been able to get the link to them for the guide. So you can't capture their email address or anything because you haven't been able to contact them off the platform. I tell you, and I say this all the time, the QR code is your humble friend. You can print off a QR code that links through to different sections of your Touch Their Guide. You can either link it through to the homepage, so guests receive that right when they open it. One thing that I know some of our customers have done in the past is they'll print off a QR code and frame it next to their coffee machine that links straight to the instructions for using the coffee machine, or the out by the hot tub, how to use the hot tub, or there's a finicky little thing in one of the rooms to open the skylight or figure out the blinds. You put the instructions in there. You want to get guests interacting with your guide and interacting with you in the property. Like, I promise you might, the QR code's a bit old school, but that's how you get the guest to interact with your guides when they're in your homes. You can leave one by the door when they first check in. You can have it in a nice little frame. So many people do this, and it sounds super old school, but it's super impactful. Give guests the opportunity to interact with you so that you can interact with them, build that connection with them, and stay in touch with them long after they have checked out. So these are 4 things that you can do today. And one last thing that I actually wanted to share. So I will stop screen sharing If you haven't noticed, if you're a TouchStay user, we have a whole new experience. We've completely revamped what the hub, as we call it, the back office of TouchStay looks like. And these screenshots are horrible, so I'm going to share it with you now. I think it's really, really cool. And I went in for the first time last week and I was like, ah, let me just go back to screen sharing and I'll just give you a brief little look through what it looks like. I think it's really cool. Okay, so this is I don't when I go on holiday, I use home exchange, and so I have people come to my property and I stay there. Love home exchange. Couldn't recommend it enough to people, but that's for another webinar. So I have a touch stay guide for my property, and I also have a city guide for Barcelona because I love sharing all those local recommendations to save people from the tourist traps. So this is my TouchStay account. It looks super different to how it used to look. If you're a TouchStay user, you'll know, but it's awesome. So here you have all of your guidebooks, you've got your property information, check-in and check-out, and then your guidebook content. And you'll see that on the right-hand side, you have a live preview of your guide. So if I go back to property information, it goes back to the cover page. And then if I go to guidebook content, it switches, which I think is super nifty. So let's have a look. Let's go to my weekend adventures. See, it's opened it on the right-hand side. So whilst you're building your guide and changing things, adjusting things, dropping in new information, you also see what the guest is seeing at the same time. So it really puts you in the guest's shoes, which is 100% what TouchStay is all about and the guest experience. So let's have a look. My favorite cinema in Barcelona, all these nice places I like to recommend. It's super neat. You can really show off or kind of see what's happening whilst you're doing the work. And you can get your link, your QR code here, public QR code, and you can copy the link to your guide here as well. So it's just a really nice way to see what it all looks like. And when you're changing your appearance of the guide, for example, you think, oh, this photo is out of date. I've updated the cushions on the terrace. Let me change it. You can change the photo here and you'll see it live. So no more having to open it up on your phone, refresh and look at the changes. It's all just here for you. So really makes things easier for you, speeds up your time. And then on the right-hand side now, we have really cool navigation. So all of the guest information that you capture, goes under contacts. I don't have any contacts, so it's not showing there. But that's where all of the collected guest records would go. Then messaging and chat. I also don't have that live because I just don't use it. Then you've got your store. Why is none of this working? There we go. Okay. I haven't turned on these features, but all of your upsells will be here in the store. That's where you create your own store. And then campaigns. So something that's really cool that we released this year is you can send little notifications to your guests that looks like this. So if you want if you want to offer them an upsell, like order breakfast, for example, they can order it directly from the guide. So it's just giving them a little prompt and it looks really cute. And you can set these up however you wish. It's a really nice way of kind of having these nice looking, but not intrusive push notifications to your guests. We have a little marketplace for experiences. We have task management now. So when you turn this on, you can manage the processes of your task management, which is really neat. All of our integrations with different PMS softwares, as well as our integration with Airbnb. There's a whole host of them in here, and your data dashboard. So I don't have that turned on either. So your full dashboard for whenever guests are clicking around, looking on your guidebook, you can see how guests are using the guide, get all of your usage statistics. So it's just super. It's a whole new change. I absolutely love it. We'll be doing a full webinar on this in September, sharing what's changed, sharing a lot of these new features, because TouchStay is a whole load of stuff. We're so much more than just guest communication and sharing information with guests. There's so much more you can now do to kind of manage the whole world of guest management. So I will pop back into my little presentation and then I think let's do Q&A. Let's just jump straight into the questions. There's been lots of questions. I'm going to take a sip of water. Okay. Oh, so questions. Oh my goodness, I'm scrolling. Okie dokie. A question. Yeah, everyone is kind of agreeing with me. Really interesting point from Paula around the services that are being offered, like the transfer from the airport, so many transfers are really rubbish, expensive, and a bad service. And it's the local people on the ground who will know about the best transfers. I couldn't agree with you more, Paul. You're absolutely right. Do, 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 do. Andrew, yes, there have been lots of typos. To everyone who noticed my typos, this is how you know it's me and not AI writing these slides. Yeah, I do have a lot of typos. I'm terrible with my spelling, but thank you for noticing. One from Catherine. Airbnb guidelines are suggesting that they want all add-ons to be paid via their systems. Yes, so this is something that they did last year, and I'm trying to remember the specific things. So if you can't, I think if it's related to the booking, I can't remember the specific policy wording. We went into this last year, and they are compliant. The long and short of it is the experiences are compliant. If it is a experience that is related to the guest's stay, so for check-in, check-out, for example, if it is for something that the guest needs, you're allowed to communicate with them, you're allowed to take payment for it, and that does not have to be done within Airbnb. That is allowed to be done off platform, as they would call it. And then if a guest is booking an experience, they're going on a cycling tour, whatever, there is no policy of Airbnbs that says the guest cannot book that directly with you. It's all around things that are to do with the specific stay of the guest. Airbnb wants all of that to be managed in platform. But if it's something that the guest needs and it's not possible to book through the platform, for example, you can't offer the guest necessarily the ability to book an additional cleaning. They might not even know they want that right away. You are allowed to have the communication with the guest. They are allowed to ask you for that, and you're allowed to provide it to them. I'm annoyed that I can't remember the specific wording, but I do believe it is all within policy. So good question from Catherine, though. Someone said, I don't tend to reply publicly to reviews. Would that help? I do believe that this is helpful, yes. We were having this discussion a while back about should you publicly reply to reviews. And this is a great way of building trust. And it shows that when a bad review is left, the business is not hiding from it or trying to not take responsibility for it. And saying, hey, thank you so much for your feedback. We really appreciate this. And knowing, and for example, if you're responding saying, we have now fixed that issue, there are new fluffy tails, for example, the AI will also read that. So this will all be contributing to what the algorithms and the AI are pulling from. So it does remain important to respond to your reviews. On the TouchStay website, we actually have a review responder. You can pop in your review and it can spit out a nice response. Of course, please respond to your reviews yourself. But if you've got loads of them and you're super busy, it's a really nice tool to speed things up. If a review mentions something unfavorable, but the host has responded in a way that resolves or addresses, yes, that would be pulled in theory, because the AI would still be reading that and it would reflect that a change has been made. So in theory, yes, that is what should start happening over time. A question from Carol. So we need to level up the descriptive text for AI. Yes. And does it also look at photo captions for answers to questions? It will be pulling from anything that's text. If you have text on an image, so the LLM models don't particularly like PDFs or things that when text is included in a photo. It can read it, but it will skip a lot of things. It's just not optimized for that. It is optimized to read text. So if you have captions that can be read, that are within your listing, that should be helpful as well. And that's actually a really good thing to make sure you do. Make sure you do have captions for your photos, because that's, number one, very good for accessibility. And of course, it will be helping as the AIs continue to trawl for text. They're all text-based. It's not all that complicated or all that sophisticated. They're just text files. They love text. So when you're thinking, oh, what should I be doing? Just write it down. That's how you optimize. Of course, it's more nuanced than that, but as a general rule. A question about the new hub. I need to get more familiar with the new hub, the store, and other features. Is there a guide walkthrough we can use? That will be coming in September. So there was an email that was sent out, I think, last week with more information about the hub. And when you do the switch over, you should get a little walkthrough guide. But in September, we'll be doing a big deep dive webinar. I'll be doing it in September on basically how everything has changed, where you can find things, and all of the new features that we have. So there'll be lots to cover in September. Definitely keep an eye out for that one. Karina asks, regarding Touchstay messaging and chat. So we have a two-way messaging system where you can speak with guests through the guide, excuse me, and also an AI chatbot that uses the guide information to answer guests as well. Presumably not all guests use Touchstay. Do you still do lots of messaging via the different platforms? When it comes to how you want to communicate with guests, I say choose your own adventure. There's no right way or wrong way to manage your guest messaging. The important thing is that the guest can get in touch with you if they need to, and you can communicate with the guest. A lot of people prefer, especially if they're integrated Touchstay with their PMS, people prefer to manage all of the guest communication through the unified inbox. It's absolutely fine. If you don't have a PMS, Touchday's two-way messaging solution is a perfect alternative. All that matters, I think, when it comes to how you communicate with guests, the platform you're using is really whatever works best for you. If you communicate a lot with them, for example, an Airbnb booking, if you're messaging directly through Airbnb, that's fine also. It really depends what you prefer to do. Having a range of different options is good. And really the thing is not necessarily the platform you're using, but the consistency and the clarity of your communication and how you communicate with guests right from that booking all the way through their experience with you. Lovely. How are we doing for time? We're all right. Do you post, a question from Natalia, do you post your guidebook on your Airbnb listing or do they receive it after booking? It's post booking that you would typically send the link to the guest. I don't think you can send it, well, so there are lots of different ways that you can't officially send it to the guest through Airbnb messaging system anymore because it's viewed as off-platform communication or trying to take the guest off-platform. However, we have an integration with Airbnb, which makes it possible for you to put the guidebook message link into your messages that go to guests. So kind of the standard messages that you would set up post-booking, pre-check-in, etc. So there are ways of doing this that are compliant. So if you aren't using a PMS, but you have Airbnb listings and you're using Touchstay, the integration is free. It's super fast. It takes 10 minutes. You don't have to be super techie to do it. And you can set up the links to be sent through your Airbnb messages and it is compliant. So it's super useful. Lovely. Oh, some love for the QR codes from Ruth saying she bought a Bluetooth printer and it prints QR codes, so we're sticking them all over our property. Yes, QR codes. Shout it from the rooftops. Thank you, Ruth. I love that. Does AI, an anonymous question, does AI take account of the input of private messages for reviews? I don't know. I don't know is the answer to that question. So would AI be pulling from private messages for reviews? I can't imagine it would. In theory, it should just be pulling from the reviews, but that's an Airbnb question. I would assume no, but never best to assume with these things. Question from Brenda. In the new hub system, is the master level content still available? Yes. So this is referring to if you have, we call it master content or all guide content. So if you have 30 Touchstay guides and they've all got lots of different information because they're in different places, they're different properties, but you have like core information that needs to be the same across all of the guides. Yes, you can still have that. Yes, it's not going away. Lovely. There is one issue with the content in the hub. If you use multiple guides, you can't easily indicate in which guides content is shown. I had to switch back to the old layout multiple times. Thomas, that's very interesting. If you've had an issue, I highly recommend you send an email to support@touchstay.com. And this is something I'll make sure we cover in the webinar in September because you should, in theory, as I just said, be able to have that content that's shared across the multiple guides and see which guides it's being shown in. I know the old system, could be a bit tricky to get used to, but once you were used to it, it was fine and super easy. But when things move around, it can be tricky. So Thomas, if you are stuck, email support@touchstay.com and definitely come to the webinar in September and we'll help you go through it all. A really great point from Corey, who says, I recommend adding an FAQ section to your listing. Yeah, super great way to feed information to the LLMs and that very conversational style. Yeah, that's perfect. And it's very good to have on your website as well. If you have a direct booking website, having a really concrete FAQ section is great. It's all text. It's really conversation style writing. So that's a really good recommendation from Corey. I will be stealing that one for next time. Lovely. And I see a recommendation from Thomas. Thank you. Lovely. Is there a free trial before going live or an option to create a guidebook before launching? Yes, we currently offer a 2-week free trial. And there is something else coming, which I don't think I'm allowed to talk about. But yes, there are other things coming along that regard. But for now, yes, you do have a 2-week free trial. So give it a go. Lovely. I'm going to answer one more question because we are running out of time. Someone says, how can I find out more about Touch Day? You can go to our website, touchday.com. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Emma Cole, and I'm always happy to answer questions. And if I just share my screen one last time, I have QR codes. I have 2 more QR codes for you. Love a QR code. So here's how you can learn a bit more about Touch Day. Lovely. So, woohoo. Learn more. Discover how to enhance your guest experience. So the QR code on the left will take you through to our website where you can learn a bit more. If you are brand new to Touch Day and you want to give that 2-week free trial a go, or just give it all a try, you can scan the QR code here and this will take you to our guidebook generator. And you basically pop in your Airbnb listing, it pulls in a lot of the information, you can make tweaks and changes, and then you have the core of the template of your first guide. So super easy to get up and running. So sorry for anyone whose questions I haven't been able to answer. I don't want to keep you all here any longer. I'm sure everyone's hot and tired and I've talked a lot, but hopefully this has been helpful. If you do have questions and you're a Touch Day customer, please do feel free to email our support team, a super friendly team. Email support@touchday.com and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to chat as well. And I really appreciate you all joining and being here right to the bitter end. So thank you. The slides will be shared and I'll see you all back in September. We're taking a break in August, but we'll be back in September for running through all the new things that are available with Touch Day and the new hub design. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.